This is macOS Ken.
Apple and Politicos. Apple builds an LLM for China. An ad sale start for Apple Maps. It is Monday, the 17th of August, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Cuarón. Safeguard your identity and save up to 76% off with code macOS at cuarón.com/macOS. This show is also sponsored by Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. With lots of cards, accounts, loans, and investments, keeping track of your finances can be tough. Copilot Money makes it easier. It tracks all sorts of spending and savings automatically. The Copilot Money dashboard is your view to everything, letting you see new transactions, budget categories, recurring charges, and more. And it meets you where you are, with apps for the Mac, iPhone, or iPad, as well as a full-featured dashboard on the web. From managing the money you have to planning, tracking, and staying motivated on savings, Copilot Money makes it easy. Right now, you can get 2 months free with code macOSKEN at copilot.money/macOSKEN. Recognized by Apple as a must-have finance app and as a smart way to save money, you can try it for no money with a 2-month free trial with offer code macOSKEN at copilot.money/macOSKEN. Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. Try 2 months free with offer code macOSKEN at copilot.money/macOSKEN. Apple has opened a new hands-on manufacturing training center in Houston, Texas. The company issued a press release last Thursday highlighting the facility. Located inside a facility that builds and ships Apple's advanced AI servers and will start building Mac Mini later this year, the release says the Advanced Manufacturing Center offers free training and educational sessions for small and medium-sized businesses, giving them direct experience with state-of-the-art equipment, interactive labs, and tools they need to accelerate innovation. Marking the occasion, a piece from the Wall Street Journal had Apple CEO Tim Cook giving U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick a tour of the digs last Thursday. Though not mentioned by the Journal, others on the tour mentioned in the press release included Senator Ted Cruz, Houston Mayor John Whitmore, U.S. Representative Christian Menefee, Harris County Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis, and other officials and community partners. The Journal piece about the tour actually said very little about the tour itself, focusing instead on exiting CEO Tim Cook's time courting the Trump administration. That's included everything from donating to Trump's second inauguration, to donating to the controversial White House ballroom project, to giving Trump a glass and gold statue last year in the Oval Office, to pledging investments totaling $600 billion into U.S. manufacturing over the next 3 years. Hey, by the way, apropos of nothing, can Apple buy memory from CXMT? Legally, yes, but the cover the company was apparently seeking from the administration, that's not going to happen. No doubt you remember reports of Apple looking for the administration's blessing to buy chips from the likes of CXMT. They've met with pushback on that. The Pentagon has CXMT on a don't do deals list thanks to their alleged or apparent support of China's People's Liberation Army. Additionally, a recent piece from Bloomberg had U.S. senators from both sides of the aisle warning Apple against working with CXMT. That said, getting the go-ahead from the White House would go a long way with a lot of legislators, so what do you say? Lutnick says no. Another piece from the Wall Street Journal over the weekend had the Commerce Secretary urging Apple to find other solutions. On the tour of the Houston facility, Lutnick said the Trump administration is not in favor of Apple buying memory from Chinese firms. The way he says he sees it, there must be other solutions to the memory issue, but it's not great American companies using Chinese memory. It's weird that HP gets to skate on this. The journal says they buy memory from CXMT for devices sold outside the US. Oh well. We're learning more about Apple's AI plans for China. The Next Web highlights a Reuters report saying Apple has trained its own large language model for the Chinese market with Alibaba's support. That breaks new ground in a couple of ways. First, Apple usually leans on established models from partner firms. And second, the piece says Apple is the first foreign firm Beijing has approved to offer a proprietary AI model in mainland China. That said, it sounds like it won't be the stuff it says under Apple's control, just how it says it. While Apple is said to have trained the LLM, the Next Web says Alibaba's Quen model is folded into the Chinese version of Apple Intelligence, while Baidu's technology will handle the search. In other words, the piece says, the two features users lean on most, the assistant that answers questions and the search that finds things, are powered by China's own champions rather than by Cupertino. It does make strategic sense. About the only messaging more locked down than Apple's PR is China's, everything. The way the Next Web sees it, Apple building a China-specific model tuned to local rules and local partners will help Apple recover some momentum lost to phones featuring AI made in the Middle Kingdom. While the advertisements themselves haven't shown up yet, it sounds like sales have begun for ads in Apple Maps. Media Post ran a piece last week that had sales getting underway in the US and Canada. They're apparently built for organizations big and small. The report says businesses with 5 locations or fewer can buy ads directly in Apple Business using automated tools. Businesses with more than 5 outlets will need to work through the Apple Ads platform instead. Apple's also running an introductory special to get businesses through the door on getting people through the door. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Cuarón, a single service to protect your identity and finances. The times are not what they used to be. Cyber threats used to be things that affected life online, while Mac users thought they were immune from such things. Today, cyber threats are real-world threats, and nobody is immune. Online threats threaten our homes, our money, our lives in real life. For defense, there's Cuarón. Cuarón provides all-round protection against identity theft. That includes credit monitoring, dark web surveillance, security alerts, and identity theft recovery. It also includes a range of insurance coverage, from cyber extortion to home title to online fraud. Cuarón is comprehensive identity theft and cyber protection brought to you by Nord Security, a name you have trusted for years. Check them out for yourself. Find out more and use code macOS for up to 76% off at Cuarón.com/macOS. Don't wait for the worst to happen. One scam can cost you everything. Use code macOS for up to 76% off at Cuarón.com/macOS. Coveron. Cuarón, a single service to protect your identity and finances. Use code macOS for up to 76% off at Cuarón.com/macOS. If you've not installed the latest security updates for your Mac, you really should. Ars Technica has Dutch officials warning of a high-severity macOS vulnerability under active exploit. The report says the vulnerability stems from a bug in the macOS screen sharing capability, which allows a remote party to view the screen and control the keyboard and mouse while the machine is turned on. Sometimes not having my machine turned on does seem like the best idea. Still, shows won't produce themselves. The vulnerability was patched a couple of weeks ago for Tahoe, Sequoia, and Sonoma, according to the report. If you have not installed the latest security updates for your Mac, you really should. There's new old stuff in Apple's Refurbished store. 9 to 5 Mac says Apple's added MacBook Air models, MacBook Pro units, Apple Watch Series 11, Apple Watch SE 3, Apple TV 4K, and iPhone 16 Plus to its new offerings. Sailing in at roughly 15% off the true new price, the hardware comes with a 14-day return window, a 1-year limited warranty, and is eligible for Apple Care. 2 things to remember. First, inventory shifts quickly in Apple's Refurbished store, so you may want to check and check again. And second, a lot of times there are better deals through other channels. Just have to be willing to hunt around. Anyway, those things are in the Refurbished store. Happy hunting. We'll wrap the day with 2 from Apple TV land. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release late last week announcing a new series in the works from multiple Oscar winner Alfonso Cuarón. Inspired by the Adam Neville novel Last Days, the show Ascension is described as a 1-hour psychological thriller following a relentless documentary filmmaker and recently divorced mother who is brilliant at uncovering others' truths, but struggling to resolve her own. When she begins a project on a mysterious 20th century cult known as the Church of Ascension, she finds unexpected refuge in its teachings until she discovers something far more insidious beneath. Ascension explores evil and innocence at the highest level, while asking how far we'll go and what we'll sacrifice to protect the ones we love, even when the greatest threat to them may be ourselves. Very early days for this one. No word on when Ascension will light up the small screen. And finally today, were it in my power, I would put Vince Gilligan in the penalty box. Apple signed him to a 2-season deal for the amazing series Pluribus, and he can't stop talking about how they just figured out what's going to happen in season 2. Who does this to people? When I was away last week, I told a friend of mine that he had just figured out how season 2 was going to go, and the stream of obscenities that came out of my friend's mouth, I mean, I'm fluent in profanity, but bleep. 9 to 5 Mac says he was on Deadline's Crew Call podcast last week. It was on that Gilligan said, "I can't wait for people to see season 2 because we just finished breaking it and we're going to start shooting it in a couple of months. And man, I'm excited." Star Trek The Next Generation did 7 seasons in 7 years, and there was a writer's strike during that. MASH did 11 seasons in 11 years. I heard a lot of this at the Star Trek convention I went to last week. Viewers would like smaller budgets, tighter schedules, and more episodes. Single episodes of TV cost more than some independent films these days. Nicholas Meyer, director of Time After Time, Star Trek II, Star Trek VI, and other films, said no director will say this to a studio, but you do better work with less. I'm paraphrasing, but those were the views expressed on one of his panels. If you ever get to see him speak, by the way, do it. Saw him 2 times last week and another time a few years ago, and he's just phenomenal. As far as Pluribus goes, it's just TV. It's fine, but I'm kind of offended that Gilligan took money for 2 seasons of TV, took people through a whole season, then got around to thinking about a 2nd season, for which he had already been paid at least a little bit. Anyway, they're going to start shooting in a month or 2 months maybe. Gilligan says they're still aiming for a 2nd season premiere in late 2027. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Copilot Money. Get 2 months free with code macOSKen at copilot.money/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Cuarón. Safeguard your identity and save up to 76% off with code macOS at cuarón.com/macOS. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOSKen. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.